Love and Mercy tells the story of Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys, and it covers two perspectives of his life. One of them when he's younger, played by Paul Dano, and then after he goes through a bunch of crazy things, an older version of him played by John Cusack. And when you look at both of these actors, you're like, they're two completely different people. But the thing is that's even crazier is that the director didn't really just pick Paul Dano and then give him old makeup to then look like John Cusack, but it's the fact that he saw like different aspects of Brian Wilson's life within these two guys, and he even went to the extent of having them not even interact with each other so they can have an organic sort of take on what they felt Brian Wilson would be like in their portrayals. And after a while, even though they're two completely different looking actors, it sort of fits when you start really seeing them portray this same character. Now, while obviously this film does feel like a music biopic, it does some things differently, specifically with the story of Brian Wilson. If you don't know it, there are some different aspects that he does where he's not always just going out and having all the fans cheer for him. He actually stays home, and they explain it. He is not always interacting with the band members. They explain it, where in the version of Paul Dano, he is really focused on making music. That's where he's got this creative thing going all over the place. Some people don't agree with him. He's pretty much going all Kubrick, going really crazy, wanting to get every detail. And it's really cool to see him create that, because they don't just focus on the lyrics and the band members. He's literally over here like putting paper clips into the piano. He's trying to like strum as much as he can. He wants to get a horse into the studio. But what makes those scenes even more organic is that while Paul Dano does take some quotes from Brian Wilson, literally those scenes are unscripted, and it's Paul Dano just literally getting real musicians together and trying to make something happen. You then have the older version of him, again played by John Cusack, who ends up being in a relationship with this car saleswoman who's played by Elizabeth Banks. And then you have Paul Giamatti, who comes in as this doctor who you don't necessarily know if he's really helping him or if he's making things worse and pulling a whole civil situation here. But that story starts to get intense. However, the movie is a very well-made movie. I highly enjoyed it. I'm not necessarily going to say that when people say, hey, what are the best biopics of all time, music biopics, that Love and Mercy is necessarily going to be at the top of my list, but the performances were really well done. Paul Dano's my boy. I think he's got a lot in him, and he does a really good job here. Everybody does a good job, but it's nothing that was so amazing, mainly because there is a point in time. There's like 3 parts to the story, and they even say it, that they cut out a specific part. And that's the factor that you have Paul Dano, who's a musician going all crazy, and he's getting to that point, that really dark period, which would have been like the Oscar-worthy performance, and then the aftermath of John Cusack. Those two stay, but that really dark period, they sort of just cut out because they thought it would be too dark. Now, I do, however, understand that, mainly because Brian Wilson actually was like a part of the film. He saw it to the point that he really agreed with everything. They really don't try to change much about his life, even to the point that when he was watching the movie, he literally thought that some of the characters were so realistic that it freaked him out. So I can see why they probably wanted to cut out a lot of the dark versions or the darker versions of his life, considering that it was already sort of dark. However, when you're dealing with pacing, the ending of it sort of really rushes the results of something that they're trying to get together, and it sort of seems like one character all of a sudden was for something, and then they're sort of not. And then they do a thing that I always dislike in movies, which are a visual art form, and that is not explaining something either in a montage or something else, but just text. Now, is that to say that this is a bad movie? In no way, shape, or form. It is a really well-made movie. But I wanted that to be more specifically because they show you aspects that they leave more so for your imagination. But it would have been really cool to see, especially my boy Paul Dano, take on that side. Either way, I definitely think it's worth checking out, especially if you were intrigued in it. You will definitely be satisfied. If you don't know anything about the Beach Boys, it's really cool to learn more about his life, as sad as it is, especially with what he faces. But the worst part about it, I guess, is the factor that you think of the Beach Boys and you think, oh, really happy-go-lucky. After this movie, you sort of reconsider that. However, again, it's a very well-made film with really good performances, and I am curious your thoughts. If you were able to check out this film, definitely let me know down below what you thought about it. We can discuss it in the comments, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.